The relationship between Russians and Jews has been quite complex throughout history. Jews have constantly faced restrictions within the territory of Russia. Even after the establishment of an independent Jewish state, tensions between these two peoples remained, and in this video I will discuss the reasons why Jews might harbor resentment towards Russians. The significant influx of Jewish population into the Russian Empire was linked to the three partitions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in the late 18th century. This led to the incorporation of territories where the Jews resided into the Russian Empire. Prior to this event, Jews were virtually absent in Russia due to being barred from entry and facing prejudiced attitudes, a common trend in many European countries. This situation was primarily shaped by religious factors and the anti-Semitic sentiment rooted in Christianity. Following the annexation of Polish lands into the Russian Empire, millions of Jews began populating the territories. However, limitations on their rights persisted. In 1791, a decree known as the Pale of Settlement was issued, confining Jewish residents solely to the western part of the empire. Jews were forbidden from moving to Russian provinces. Thus, their movements were largely confined within the contemporary territories of Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, and Lithuania. Even within the Pale of Settlement, restrictions persisted. Jews were prohibited from living in villages and engaging in rural agriculture. They were periodically barred from entering Russian cities. For instance, in cities like Kiev, Jews were not allowed to live and, for a certain period, even engage in trade. Jews as a whole faced discrimination regarding their culture and language. Books in Yiddish and Hebrew were banned. However, during the reign of Alexander II, some Jews were granted permission to leave the Pale of Settlement on the condition of joining the merchant guilds. This opportunity was accessible to only few, as guild membership incurred high taxes. Importantly, the Pale of Settlement was not based on ethnic criteria, it was more of a religious restriction. In other words, the prohibition on living was rooted in religion, limiting this possibility to a small portion of Jews. Some Jews assimilated and converted to another faith in order to gain the opportunity to leave the Pale of Settlement and settle in major Russian cities. However, the number of baptized Jews in the 19th century was limited. Around 70,000 Jews embraced Orthodoxy. By the end of the 19th century, approximately 5 million Jews resided in the Russian Empire, accounting for nearly half of the world's Jewish population at that time. Nevertheless, by the late 19th and early 20th century, the situation for Jews worsened due to major pogroms in various cities. The first pogroms occurred in 1881-1882, following the assassination of Alexander II by the Narodna Vola group and incitement from the media blaming Jews. This led to significant pogroms in 166 cities. Thousands of Jews suffered, their property was looted, and their homes destroyed. Jews were accused of regicide, leading to further curtailment of their rights. Pogroms became occurred throughout the empire. One of the largest pogroms took place in Chisinau, where 49 people were killed, nearly 600 wounded, and over 1,500 houses destroyed. Furthermore, there are claims that both Alexander III and Nicholas II held anti-Semitic views. The authorities often turned a blind eye to their current pogroms, effectively not intervening or arresting the instigators. Although rare, there were instances of prevention. Some researchers even assert that the pogroms may have been organized by the Russian authorities themselves. Some claim that some pogroms might have been orchestrated by the authorities as a result of anti-Semitic policies. Pogroms led to two scenarios. Jews either left Russia en masse, heading to other countries, or the revolutionary atmosphere radicalized them. In 1805, around 2 million Jews, most of whom moved to the United States, left Russia as a result of the pogroms. Additionally, during the 1917 revolution, Jews constituted a significant portion of various revolutionary parties. For example, half of the Bolsheviks were of Jewish descent. The situation improved for Jews after the February Revolution of 1917, when the provisional government proclaimed equality for all and effectively dissolved the Pale of Settlement. After the Bolsheviks seized power, Jews experienced newfound freedoms, albeit briefly. Nevertheless, it's worth noting that the Bolsheviks constantly suppressed the spread of Judaism and Hebrew. In contrast, Yiddish was even granted official language status in Belarus and was taught in schools. An autonomous Jewish region was also established in Russia to attract Jews to the country. After World War II, a new wave of anti-Semitism emerged in Russia, leading to persecution of Jews. They were accused of promoting Zionist ideas, the so-called ruthless cosmopolitanism, and espionage for other countries, primarily the United States. As a result, the Jewish Anti-Fascist Committee was suppressed, with its members accused of collaboration with Western countries. Additionally, in 1952, the Doctors' Plot was initiated, during which doctors of Jewish origin were accused of assassinating prominent communists and collaborating with Western countries. In general, the anti-Semitic reaction was triggered by the beginning of the Cold War and Israel's non-alignment with the Soviet bloc. Soviet media started disseminating anti-Semitic information and producing propagandistic materials against Jews. Jews were barred from engaging in scientific activities, and gaining admission to universities with Jewish roots was quite challenging. This situation persisted until the end of the Soviet Union, despite the official doctrine against anti-Semitism and racism. For a long time, Jewish citizens of the Soviet Union were not granted permission to immigrate to Israel, as the latter was considered a hostile state. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the policy towards Jews changed. In the 1990s, Jews began to immigrate in mass from post-Soviet countries. Regarding relations between the Soviet Union and Israel, they were openly hostile and labeled as an imperialist state. Interestingly, Stalin initially supported the establishment of Israel. However, after the Israel leadership declined to align with socialism, the Soviet government shifted its focus towards Arab countries in the region. Israel became a major ally of the United States in the Middle East, particularly from 1967 onwards following the Six-Day War. The Six-Day War, also known as the Israel War of Independence or the June War, occurred in June 1967 between Israel and neighboring Arab countries, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The war lasted only 6 days, from June 5th to June 10th. The United States provided military aid, political support, and economic assistance to Israel, which indeed made Israel a significant ally in the Middle East. In all the Arab-Israeli wars, the Soviet Union supported Arab socialists by supplying them with weapons and provisions, as well as sending military specialists. Essentially, Arab countries waged war against Israel with the backing of Soviet weaponry. Relations with Israel were severed and only restored in 1991. As we can see, Russo-Jewish relations throughout the centuries have been complex and ambiguous. Jews constantly suffered persecution in Russia, and the establishment of a Jewish state proved hostile to the Soviet Union. Thank you for watching, don't forget to like and comment this video. See you!